Oh my gosh, it says there's 5 people already. Hi. Just doing some setup. Um, you may have noticed some decoration around the cave. Um, there's there's eggs. I put eggs places. See if you can spot them all. I think there's 15 total, but you won't be able to see them all from one camera angle. So, good luck with that. Um, there's a lot of eggs. There's only 3 designs. I probably should have made a fourth one, but oops. Yeah, there's eggs in here. I hid Easter eggs all over the cave. Hid is a strong word. I mean, there is the one under the water over there. A very big chicken. Right. So, I think, I think this Easter it is important to remember the reason for the season. So, right. Let's get on with that. You know, there's more eggs. Enjoy. Right. Well, I mean, something Christian savior back from the dead, all that good stuff. And now we celebrate with chocolate, eggs, and bunnies. Yes, there's bunny, and you might notice I look a little different today. So I like I said, reason for the season may have dressed slutty for Jesus. Anyway, hi, how we doing? Should I back up a little bit? There you go. There you go. So I've dressed the part. Not my usual vibe. Me and Liz can have pink party now. We can both be pink, I guess. That's an option on the table. I even got a little fuzzy bunny tail on top of my usual tail. It's complicated. So many ears. 2 of them are ribbon. Don't worry about it. Um, and eggs. I was up way too late last night. There were eggs. Um, we got we got eggs outside. We got eggs inside. There's a couple eggs in the water. You can see it. You can see it by my head. It's in there, wiggling around. They're everywhere. There's even one up behind the stalagmites, but you can't really see it. But they're there. I promise they're there. So, in the spirit of eggs, I went looking through my library and my short list trying to find something egg related. And my backup plan was to finally try Powerball, but I did find something that I think will do the part pretty well. Let me make sure it actually runs. Oh dear. Oh. Okay. Let's go into our options. Let's get our controller set up. That would have been smart to do. Is the outfit worth it? Is it? Do I look the part? All dolled up. I never doll up. Can I not make this like a little smaller? You are full screen size, and your options are full on or full off. Guess on. Okay, it's just doing the Godot thing. So be it. Oh your eyes. I don't know what that means, but okay. Okay, I think we got it working. Oh, it held my click. Oh dear. Okay, I need to go into the game. Where's the game capture? This button. It needs to be set to this, and there we go. Cute little dragon. Very Easter, right? Cute little dragon. We all love a cute little dragon around here. Yeah. Oh. We're gonna try this. I'll probably be wearing this for art streams for a bit too. But we'll see. We'll see if I can stand looking the part. I got like glitter on my cheeks and everything. Did you see it? Like, look at these things. I got like a little. Hold still, you can see it. I'll hoard it up. Right. Okay, let's switch over. Oh, I'm way down here. I have my my thing in a different spot than usual. Should I just be like up here? Look, maybe I have a leg. I have a little bit of leg this time. I'm comfortable being that low down, but there you go. I have leg. Hooray! Bit of leg, you know. It does get severed eventually. Don't worry about it. I mean, I could shrink myself a little. I could. There we go. How's that? Okay. I've never played this, but it is supposed to be a Nintendo 64 inspired platformer where you are a little dragon looking for its unhatched siblings. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. Because I like hearing. Wow, such options. Who do we pick? We are now entering the Cavern of Dreams. The boy? Great. I'm glad he has something to watch besides Mr. Beast. I'm better than Jimmy, right? Like, everyone knows. Kill him? Don't look at someone else's phone. That'll get you murdered. Hold right trigger. Okay. Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Sage, and you are... Finn? How do I make you move? Square? Okay. Little Finn, are you lost? Oh, your siblings are missing. How awful. They're there. I'll help you find them, all right? Now, I do believe I saw an egg over there. Easter begins. Go pick them up, and I'll show you something I think you'll like. Okay. Need to move fast, try rolling. Use slopes to gain momentum or launch yourself. Okay, I guess that's supposed to be her voice, but... Okay, tailspin. Tailspin is what? I don't know how to tailspin. I don't think I have the capacity presently to tailspin. Oh, we'll keep looking around. We'll find something. There's lots of stuff around. It's Banjo-Kazooie style. This is a mushroom. They're packed with nutrition, so they're a perfect snack for your siblings. Starve, dragon, starve. Ooh, that was a loud boing. What is you? Look how small you are. You'll never get past me, the mighty wall. Look at them bug eyes. That's 64 as hell. Alright. Alright, I got the egg. Excellent, now come see me. I can use your siblings' power to give you a new ability. Blue streak. Oh. Very good, you're a quick learner. Now hold still. Ika-bokum, ika-bokum, ika-bokum in your arm. And voila, not bad, hmm? Hi, Solar. You can use your new tail to give things a good whack. If you find more of your siblings, I can harness their power to grant you more abilities. I'll let you know when you've found enough. You'll stay here and protect your siblings. Now go forward, young Finn. Oh, they just had me smack her straight up. Alright. You can sense your sibling is glad to be rescued, but is anxious about their brothers and sisters. What's this one say? Chow unleashed. You jump right after landing from another jump. You can do a high jump. Oh, look at that. Mario. I don't even need to keep good motion. This is a collectible card. Check your encyclopedia in the pause menu to view it. Ooh, we have a thing! That's like Yoshi as fuck, isn't it? Encyclopedia. I don't know how to change pages. There's a hand up there. I click it? No. Okay. I am getting a feeling about this, but I'm not sure if I can get away with it yet. I hit the wrong... Oh my gosh, me and the buttons are gonna have a talk. Okay. It is very Yoshi noise. Yeah, I can't do that yet, apparently. I can do this, though. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow. I don't think I can go down there. I am still a ball. Funny. I, like, do the doubly hoppy? No. I do not presently have that capacity. Okay. I do have the tailspin, though, so I can do this. Alright. So I have to do the tailspin right after a jump. Oh. Okay. Oh. Wait. Oh! What the balls? Oh, yeah, it's gonna take some getting used to. There's some weird tricks here. Okay, so... Right, so if I combine the two and I go... We sink and dive. Oh, but we could get in there, I guess. Maybe that's the trick. Not the easiest tutorial area I've ever seen, but maybe I'm just missing something. Okay, so... Didn't quite get away with that. I feel like I could get down there, though. Am I supposed to yet? I don't know. Could I? Probably. That didn't do shit. I don't know. Oh, hey, there's a vine here. Maybe that's important. Oh, what did the weird little block dude want from me? I don't even remember. I was busy being a goober. I goobed right out of existence, man. I got nothing. What do you have to say? Looks like you've prepared now. Alright then, come at me. Oh, I gotta smash it. Were that it? Why, I hardly felt. Oh dear. It were a tough battle, but I guess we've won. Go on then, have a grand adventure. So, okay. They really set it up like if I had enough speed, I could absolutely clear this, right? Am I stupid? I got nothing. Alright, I must have to come back later. Like, they're talking like you get momentum, but it looks like the momentum would take me the other way, or I'm just a ding-dong. So... Oh, there is a first-person mode. That's nice. It is slow as dick. Oh my god. Okay. Oh wow, Sun Daddy's streaking. Nice of you to share. Alright. Alright, let's see what happens. Let's see if we get the hang of this. Mushrooms. Get out of my way, Bobo. Yeah, I found that already, game. No cursing. Alright, man. Alright. I'll set up the timer. I'll set up the wager. Let's go. This is how you want to be? This is what you want to do this early? Am I doing it that much? Is it just for fun? I don't know. I don't pay attention to myself. Yeah, 1 minute. Place your bets. I'm going to grab mushrooms. I like mushrooms. Game shrinks every time I click out. That's concerning. When you enter a new world, you'll be able to reach all of your siblings. However, having more abilities will make your task easier. Found a mushroom. A little slurp noise when you grab something makes me happy. 30 more seconds to place your bets. Oh, hey, look at that. Easter continues. Goodness. Ah. Oh, wait, I'm not writing that off just yet. No. Mid-air jump would go miles. Oh, and the... Oh, that's actually a pretty even split for once. Alright. Alright. They get this out of my system. Okay, shit dash, bitch. Okay. 10 minutes. Starts now. I'm going to be a very good girl. Okay. Look, another egg. Look, an apple. Welcome to Lost Leaf Lake. Try one of our famous sweet apples. Oh, I got an Applejack now. Just toss it on the ground and watch it grow. Shell nerd. Shell nerd. Ooh, grass. Shell nerd. Oh, I get on top of you. An apple in that tree. Okay. Missed. I'm good at depth perception, don't worry about it. That wasn't it. That wasn't... Wait. Apple hangs loosely from this tree's branches. Now don't. Hold B button, turn to aim, then release to throw. Okay. There is egg. There is card. There is... Do I just throw it at the egg then, or is this cracked and I'm crazy? Oh, that's a log. I throw it at you? What? Oh. Interesting. Okay. I understand the puzzle. I now get it. Yeah. I know, you may consider me a genius. Ow. Don't worry about that. Egg. And I got back. Look at me, I'm cool. I'm cool and stuff. Is this different mushrooms? Different world, different mushroom? Okay, okay, okay. I mean, that's a target, right? Clearly. That's a whole thing going on. This... No, that ain't doing nothing. Yippee yahoo, mamma mia. Okay. This is shrubbery. This little smile makes you feel a little bit better. I know not joy. The reason this is bad is this naughty. Am I touching things I shouldn't? I'll take that out of context. Egg. 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 Okay, there's nothing I can really do up here yet. Oh, there's like a whole thing. This camera is not my favorite. I will say that very immediately. Like, I am not a big fan of, like, the height on this one. We have a big spooky rock. Oh, never mind. Egg. I have ascended to 4 egg. Can I go in there? Really? That looks so like you can go in there. Okay. She said she'd tell me when it was time to redeem egg. With right triggers, sit while not moving, roll while moving, submerge on paddling. Okay. You can't open this. There should be a mechanism somewhere around here. That fish doesn't look very alive. Billboarding does weird stuff sometimes. Hello. It's an old weathered grave. Okay. Oh, I'm spoiled by, like, Banjo-Kazooie noises, but, like, the slurp is very funny. Another old weathered grave. We have multiple old weathered graves and funky fish. Don't you? Alright. I don't know why the graves are submerged, but you do that. Oh, swimming is different? Alright, I'm gonna assume they all say it's an old weathered grave. Cool, great. Guess it'd be weird if they were fresh. Hello, Kappa-looking dude. What on your head? Shelner! What to do, what to do? Oh! You gotta help me. My precious fish food, it's been stolen, kidnapped, pilfered even. This nasty bat done swooped down, grabbed it, and brought it up to the treehouse. What will I do? How will the fish survive? Oh, the humanity! I couldn't keep making him pure Applejack after seeing him, I'm sorry. Oh, we can jump on this. Splork. Splork. Now that's probably beyond my immediate needs, but hey. Oh. Flowers in this flower bed look like they're growing well. Good for them. Yeah, okay. We're gonna get some sort of booty bomb. Oh. I found the strafe button. Wait, I see a mushroom? I found better than a mushroom. I'm so good at Easter, guys. That's why I get to wear the outfit. Mushroom. Aha, screw your flowers. I've ruined them. Right, I didn't even say the F-bomb. I almost did. I thought about it. But there's people counting on me. What's this? Tomb of Shellwort the Steadfast. It seems to be Shellnert and Shellwort are two different guys, you see. You come bogum? This gently burning wood emits a spicy scent. It warms your soul. Okay. Dear diary, today I saw a bat carrying around a dragon's egg. Bizarre. I could have stopped it, but you know, my tummy hurt, so... Shellnert the Shakeable and I get it. You know, we're just gonna do a Torbeck situation. He sounds different in his head than he does in person. That sounds fun to me. Find the grave that is in bloom, and strike from behind to enter my tomb. Wait. Spritz wants me to shake the boy. You know, that's not a terrible idea. If I get mad uppies, do I like... Oh? No, I get stuck on the geometry. Well, it did do something. Alright, well, we haven't been over here yet. We can't climb the treehouse as things are, so... Wow, you actually do carry quite a bit of momentum sometimes. Okay, we know where that is. Deep woods, keep out. If you simply must enter, speak to Shellnert, who is me. Shellnert. Okay. So what is the thing for? I know what the thing is for. And I carry it in the water. Give me a thing. Give me your thing. Give me this thing. Give me it. I don't think I could carry it in the water. That's why there's a whole platforming sequence. I see. I understand the challenge. Ah, throw it on the fish. And then we go, eh. 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 There it goes. And we, eh. And we, bonk. Not gonna do or whatever. I'm going in. I'm going in the spooky underwater church with hot mermaid angel but no head. Oh! Okay. Oh, timer's up. I can say fuck chick damn again. I was strong. Congratulations to the winners, and sorry to the haters. Alright. The haters are the winners, they're 55 points. Okay, so this one... face tits out, give a sermon, honey. Yeah, I have eyes. Who knew? I open up the secret spooky basement and the secret spooky underwater funeral home. Hey, I can go up. There's a whole up here. I can't do anything with it. Where's that sky coming from exactly? Okay. I saw that. I saw a thing. There's a card up there. Alright, well, hopefully soon we find a way to... ooh, mushrooms! Hold on, hold on. Listen, 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 listen. Mushrooms? So, have I ever acknowledged my long-standing love of collectathons? They get a lot of hate these days, and that's sad. Because a good collectathon is quite a unique and beloved thing. I wonder if I could launch up there with just enough oomph, but I really doubt it. Also, I just kind of want to go through that one. Can I just bonk this? I'm so sad. Spatially, that makes a lot of sense, but, you know. Yeah, you'd have to, like... Hey, I did it. I figured it out. I figured out some momentum. Check that out. Oh, bam! I got a card. Okay, so R2 is your friend, and you got to use R2 a lot. And R2 is a little jank. That's what you need to know. Egg. That's a pretty egg. where they made no effort to hide the UVC. We found enough of your siblings to unlock a new ability. Come back to me when you're able. I can't go down there. That's magic, spooky hell water. I don't know what that is. It's a reflection. It's a reflective surface. Is it supposed to be like glass, but it moves? But it's... How weird. How unique. How strange. Is there any more mushrooms hiding in peculiar little corners that I would miss? Ukulele didn't scar me for life with its one feather. That would be weird. What kind of game would do that to somebody? Hi, I'm going to come back when I have another cool ability. Hopefully something that makes this easier. Perhaps a double jump, or a booty bomb, or a sexy pose. I'm sodium sensitive. It making me sick. Having to go back to her for your moves is immediately kind of annoying, but alright. Ooh. Okay, let's start with you. Oh, there's eggs everywhere now. Oh, now, ready for a new ability so soon? Here goes nothing. Ikum-bokum, ikum-bokum, ikum-bokum in your mouth. Oh. I didn't even notice what changed at first. Don't you look dapper? They're not quite big enough to fly with, but you should be able to glide. Try using them to ride flowing air. Remember, Finn, you can always come back here to see me. Your siblings may have advice for you, too. Think of it like a home away from home, even though we just met, and there's nothing creepy about this at all. Your sibling looks ready to hatch. Maybe he'd help them break through? Owie. Your heart grew stronger. What? Whoa. What? Whoa. Funky shortcut? Memories! What we got over here? World where plants grow sideways at the far end of the forest. Okay, yeah, that's probably where the one missing is. Look at that. I love that egg. That's a great egg. Jealous of that egg. Okay, so with a glide, I should have no issue now. Excuse me, what is this? Ball. Okay, so if I go wah, wah. You know, it's just a little shy there. We can do it though. Ball. Baller. Alright. What if I just... Oh, wow. That's what I need to do all along. I didn't even need the glide. This is a whole other thing. Look at this. Where am I? Oh. We got big scary fish. We've got ducks in a row. Excuse you. Is that just leaves for an ocean? That's interesting. And they like wiggle a little bit. Oh, we're back. Yeah, we're on the other side of this. Okay. We're in the same place, just different part of it. Now, I'm assuming this water is, yeah, no bueno. So we got to ride the fishes. We'll ride the fishes, and that'll take us out here. Egg! We reset our counter to 1, though. I'm not a big fan of that part. But... Now, there was an air current back somewhere over here, I think, that we can access now. Oh. Yippee! Mamma mia! Okay, we got it. Can roll while holding an item and even while wearing jester shoes? Jester shoes? Ooh, mushrooms. Forget what you guys are doing. I got mushrooms. Big dragon on the wall. Where are my clown shoes at? I don't know. I don't have feet. I gave myself a bit of leg, but I didn't give myself feet. Sorry. Maybe next time, Lizzie. Maybe if paws pays me enough. Oh, it's a pig. So you're the Durfus who's been putting his grubby little paws in my eggs, huh? See, it changes everything. Good luck with that meow. It's a bonk. Oh, it's a bat? It's a pig bat? Whatever, I've already committed. Yeah, that's my laugh. It's natural. Pick my bridge and left me in this clanker's cavern-looking hellscape. Yum, 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 yum. It has googly eyes. Rule of anything of this era. If it has googly eyes, that's on a timer, and we all know it, but for now, I explore. Shut up! I didn't even need you! It's like supposed to go down at some point, I would assume. I'm also going to assume the water is bad. That's not water. Womp, womp, womp. It's just a pit of sorrows. There is a card down there. Okay. Nope. So there's a way to climb that. What a strange environment. Oh, hello. Oh, I think I found my clown shoes. No, we're not just any crummy old pair of boots, no sir. If you walk off a ledge while wearing us, you'll float in midair. You can even roll around in midair. Incredible, we know. But you can't bring us too far from here, otherwise we'll have to return where you found us. What can we say? We get homesick. I jingle when I walk. Well, that explains everything. Is there a limitation on that, or am I just stupid? I don't have them anymore. Okay. Don't jump off, walk off, or you will be sorry. We learned today. What I haven't learned is what their limits are. Yeah, it seems pretty forgiving overall. Seems extremely like you can just do whatever. Alright, well there's that puzzle solved. No, I was trying to get on top. Oh. I want to leave. I want to get on... Get it, but also grrr. Grrr. Spark the electric Jistar I am not. What is on this wall? Another dragon. And that dragon goes down that hole. Chirp. Chirp. Now we're looking for the best way to... Ah. Okay, we have two options here, right? We can go... Oh, we can't really go down the hole. Yes, we can. That's a JPEG. Okay, there's stuff down there, and that's a great option. I love having that option, but for the sake of argument, let's go over here and see what this is. A sad flag of idiots. Alright, we have no idea what this is about yet, but that's okay, because I see something I think resembles, perhaps, a lovely egg. Delicious egg. Ooh, and an abyss we can jump in. Always fun. What is this? How do I... I cannot... Oh, there is a limit. There is a limit. There was a little sound and everything. Alright, fuck. Oh, there's a ladder over there. Maybe I could... Oh, no, that was the bridge, wasn't it? She broke the bridge. Okay, we have options on where to go. That's what we've learned. There's a pit. There's a different pit. There's a lot of things that look like pits, if you really think about it. There's... Is that a separate one from the one I hit? Oh, shit, I think it is. Okay. Hold on. I think I have a goal. Woo! I know. Pretty cool. Okay. So that gave us more air. Not enough air to be like, yo, good forever. Just enough to kind of get up here and go in this thing if we want. Which is cool, but if I figure out how to get up to that, I could get over to that. That's an egg, you see. And I like egg, but I don't think I have a way to easily access the egg at this point in time. Whatever. Level? New level? Where? Alright, see ya! I'm up here now, I guess. Something happened. Yo, we love some boyoyoing. Boyoyoing. Psychonauts looking. Oh! Left stick moves it faster than right. That's so weird. Okay. Boyoyoing. Okay. Oh, I missed it. I missed. Boyoyoing. Look, mushrooms are important. Flower, dragon, egg? Oh. This doesn't look ominous. Airborne Armada. Bit of a leap. A note of Clanker's Cavern. Holy cow. Oh yeah, I kind of thought that might happen. Unfortunately for you, game, I'm deeply cool. Okay. Oh. Right, you need to chill. My instinct is to jump in and try to smash that, but I don't think there's a way out if I do. So that's probably not the answer right away. Might matter eventually. Well, look at that. That mattered. That bodes well. I am in the green jail. Wow, what a great room. I found it. The most important room. Very wet in here. It's kind of like, what if Banjo-Kazooie was also Anodyne? And I don't know how I feel about that combo. No! Honey. Honey. There we go. There we go. Slurp, slurp. Alright, you see this? Screw this thing immediately. Maybe that's what they wanted me to do? Slurp, slurp, and egg. What a lovely day. This place seems safe. Really sure what the intended route here was, but I don't think I took it. Alright. Great place for a mimic. You get out, not welcome here. First mean bat make me sick, fill me with boils. Now you come here, you have same wings, you bad too. Why all bad people come to me? Not fair to poor Mr. Carrington. If I'd expected that attitude, I would have gone in full Mr. Shin. No, no, no! Ooh. Oh. Oh, see, just that much Mr. Shin hurt my throat, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. On the note of safe spaces for children, I found a mysterious bottle. I have no idea what I meant to do with it. There's like a bathtub looking soup? No, no, that's not what that is. Hold on. Mushrooms. Very distracting. You heal boil, that feel nice. Egg. Egg. It's doing something, but don't ask me what. There's a chain. Giant earth element monster with limitless growth potential. To do, make bigger tank. Oh, he out. Unfortunately, I don't have mad uppies, you see. Reaper, wind element monster that can turn completely invisible, useful for surveying enemy bases. Dumpling, fire element monster that can be quickly prepared as a tasty meal on the field. Fish, water element monster that can walk through any terrain. Okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. Ah, the glide is not intuitive to me. It technically worked. I don't know what I accomplished, but it technically worked. Okay. There's a boil and there's a thing, so that's a good one too. Oh, I'm in the rain room. Don't bother me. I am hungry and there are mushrooms. Delicious. Mushrooms. Almost certain I missed one in the first area. Yeah, they're all in great places. Oh shit! I was looking at chat, and now I'm in the hole. I'm in the sorrows hole back over here. Damn it. Okay. What I get? That's what I get for engaging with my audience like I'm supposed to. Failure. Yo, what is that out there? Yeah, I could go down the big obvious, go down this hole, but there's also over here. This is quite large, actually. That one doesn't break. This one does. Something sounds nasty, but I got an egg. Been a minute. A long-abandoned food dish. Tiny organisms appear to be thriving on it. Their persistence inspires you. You will save your siblings. You are filled with determination. Why did I go straight from forest level to, like, Clanker's Mad Monster Mansion hybrid? Jeez, okay. Not to say I can see the inspirations for this one plainly, but, yeah. Okay, fine. We're back in here. We're back in Spooky Goopy Cavern. Oh, that looks fun. Oh, my goodness. No, there's no way, right? No, that ain't gonna be it. No, I'm missing something for that one, I think. Well, I gotta try the big dumb slide, right? I'm glad we did. 10. So, I will admit, the music's a bit lacking compared to what I was hoping for. I had a great plan. I had a great plan in my little head, and it didn't work out. Oh yeah, he's gonna roll up that hill real good. Yeah. All right, let's not be stupid here. Let's just Oh no, we definitely would need momentum for that to work, wouldn't we? Okay. Okay, cool. Oh, that made me sad inside. That made me... Oh, well, okay, this works. Damn, that's tricky. Like, I'm almost certain this is somehow the route, but the exact angle is rough. I'm still not convinced there's not like an extra jump I'm missing somewhere. I have no momentum. And momentum is definitely part of it. If I go straight and around, that works. Did it. Everyone praise me and give me head pats. I'm a good girl. Okay, now there's this shit. Now, Lord knows, somewhere around here has got to be a Goopy Boil thing. Seriously, are we allergic to a sound trap? Is that what's going on here? Again, Clanker's Cavern. I love being able to see what I'm doing. Is it out there? Am I a ding-dong? There was a boil in the cutscene and everything, and I just don't see it. I'm feeling a little stupid. Like, where is it? Am I a fool? Ah! Oh. Okay. Wow. Nailing it, serenade. Oh! Okay, clearly we gotta do something. Because there it is. Like, if this could be made to grow down and make a path up, maybe. If we can't climb. I mean, we got up there, though. That would work, right? Interesting. Interesting. Oh, hey, we're back in the goop room. Alright. Oh, hey, I missed a bunch of mushrooms. Genuinely, though, if you're making a game that's N64 style and your soundtrack is nothing, that's a bummer. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bummed about that. I thought we'd have at least something. Like, when it does have some music, it's a little anodyne-y and stuff, and I'm fine with that, honestly. It doesn't entirely mesh with what you'd expect, but it suits the vibe they're going for, if that makes sense. Okay, and then we go up here, and we... Yeah! I see more mushrooms. Everyone shut up and see more mushrooms. The most important thing in the world. More mushrooms. And I whiff horribly in like 6 different ways. This camera. Oh, the vertical is inverted from what I expect. That's a me problem. Uh-oh. We like eggs and bats around here. I don't know, to unlock a new ability. Honestly, in this area, I don't feel as much like I need one yet, so we're good for now. We came in that way. We came in that way. Okay. I think I know what to do for this boil. Yes, perfect. You nailed it. The fact you get, like, vertical P speed is interesting. Okay, so we want to go up here. Okay. Okay. There's a vision. We have a vision. We want to go... Oh, I guess that's why this is here, isn't it? Yeet! That's a very generous hitbox, thank you. That cog almost looks like I could jump in the middle of it, but not enough for me to think I should go for it. Yes, I should. Like, what's the downside, exactly? Disappointment. I thought it was a bottomless hole. I was like, wow, really showing me that downside fast, huh? Okay, now I never went this way, right? There's another boil, and there's a nice, aggravating, platforming challenge! What's this say? When opened, this box will unleash a great power. I think this box has been opened. Oh, no, it's a picture of a box with a thing coming out of it. And a sequence of symbols that I'm sure will never matter. There's another sequence of symbols. They seem quite prevalent. Okay, can this work? Yes. Okay, we're thinning them out. Good mushrooms. Obviously, we gotta go back up and try that thing again, but mushrooms. Mushrooms, honeys, mushrooms. I hear her squishing it. I hear the disgusting sound of a nightmare. Yes, my beloved wife. What? Okay. All boils healed. Me feel much better. Me thinking you not bad. You good. Yes, you me new friend. Me open control room. Not normally let people in, but you good, so me feel safe in you very small hands. Oh, hello. Hello. Oh, come on, that. So if you let go of it, you don't just, like, immediately fall like you'd expect. Your glide turns into a dive bomb, like you're using a wing cap. That's where we came from, but we do want to keep trying that because we have not succeeded yet. There are a number of eggs here we haven't gotten yet. It's interesting. I haven't played a 3D platformer where it has like the P-speed thing like for Mario, but it's not using like a run button. It's using kind of a weird mix of things to determine it. It's very different. Now, this overlap is, in my opinion, sinister and evil, but we've done it. We've gotten the card. Okay, now we're in here. Now there's chain. There's mushrooms, which, as we all know, are the most important thing in the world. Blue streak speeds by. It's not Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright, we worked hard to open this, so what's this about? Oh, dear God. Wait. Oh, what? Okay. It was over here. No, not on the first pass, but I also am not sure how to actually get that far. Notably? Hey, look, there's a Stream Boo ad. And kill it. What's this? Check this thing. Maybe, if it'll let me. There we go. Also doesn't have an input lapse between, like, when you... Oh, hey, I know where we are. Go Stream Boo. Yes, shrink the entire game because Stream Boo. Apparently it's still rendering, though, so that's cool. Hey, did you know new ability available? Yes, I actually do know exactly where I'm at. That's... It makes sense. It's a spatial... Wow, there's like all those spaces up there and shit. Like, definitely not a place we're gonna get everything all at once, right? But, unlimited. Let's see if we can do this as my thumb starts randomly hurting. Very helpful. Do these do anything? Oh! Okay, wait, that's interesting. Is that Mr. Carrington? Okay, now it's open, but everything's tilted out. There's a box. There's a box. But the path's less familiar. Okay, and we go sailing over. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's doable. It's just kind of awkward. Welcome to Can Sarah Actually Learn the Physics and Do the Thing? Red streak spins by. Knuckles the dragon. Faster than a naked guy. Knuckles the dragon. Yeah, you don't have to show me every time. I know where it is. I know where the stress ball is. Let me go. 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 Problem is getting the speed you need is really hard. Is this gonna work? No. You lose so much of it so easily. Oh my gosh, like, it feels doable. It feels just barely doable. Enough that I'm willing to keep trying it, but also, like, I kind of feel like I'm supposed to have something to make it easier a little bit. Like, skill? Skill would help. Hey, here we are, in pursuit of egg. Also helps if you get out of this room quickly. Like, that'll eat time so fast. There's a couple spots that just eat your time. There we go. That did it. Boy, barely. But we did it. We're in the spooky red chamber. Four, 1, 2, 3. 4, 1, 2, 3. It's just that. It dawns on me that the ship is alive, because the boils are in the ship, and the ship is a thing. It's Clanker. It's Clanker, Sarah. Calm down. You said this as you walked in. You knew it was. Okay. Give me that thing. Oh no, heartbeat noises. Oh no, heartbeat noises. Hate that shit. Oh no. Okay. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like a clockwise thing. We just gotta figure out the order of the clockwise thing. Right. Yeah, it is very chocolatey. Yo, that's kind of nasty. I don't like this shit. It's gross looking. I don't like it. It's squicky. Oh, we're gonna electrocute his heart. Kill him. Oh, I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. Okay. What did it do? Egg? What? Me had egg and heart? No wonder me had big chest pain. You more than good. You big good, yes. Okay, I feel better about that then. We cured him of having a little mini-me inside of his chest. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's not so bad, right? I'm not the bad guy. Oh, there it is. There's the exit. That also tells me those work in a specific order for that other room. I have my own theories about what to do in there. Okay, so what if we turn the ship the other way? I have reason to believe that may be relevant to our future needs. was like a whole thing. So... Oh. Oh, it's its eyeball. That's the one that was looking at me outside. Okay. Okay, so in theory, this is the one room I do not feel like I figured out at all, right? A hard no. That one's on. Nope. Is this going to be clockwise again, or is this going to be a figure-it-out pattern now that we know they work a certain way? Okay, there's two. Right. So far, tilting it this way doesn't seem to have mattered. I mean, to be fair, baby has not been disturbed yet.
Whiff-wee! Thank you so much for saving us, Little Dragon. I'm gonna go rewatch the cargo bay.
Oh, you three little friends. Good job, good job. Okay. Well, now all I'm thinking is I made this harder for myself because it's all tilted against me, so I should probably go untilt it. I wonder if this was meant to be how I got that one stupid card. Oh, right there. Okay, yeah, this is probably how you were meant to get that card. I went for the hard way. That would make a level of sense. Well, I found a way without it, so neener neener. Let's go turn this back to normal so I can reach that chain so I can jump in and grab that egg. Then I don't know of anything else I can actually do here right now. Seems like outside has a lot of stuff, but inside's pretty clear. So, in theory... I could also turn this the other way. Wow, okay. I might be dumb. I ever feel like you solve everything the wrong way?
Guy's name.
What guy?
Bunny.
What funny?
Bunny.
Bunny?
But the main bunny you're playing.
Oh, I'm playing as a dragon. His name is Finn. There's something up? We do like up. I think I've been up. Right, this is how we got there, isn't it? I don't know of anything else in here off the top of my head. I don't remember seeing... Hello? What the crap are you? Okay, so come back if I ever have the ability... Oh, we released the monsters. So they're in different places now. Interesting. I mean, we can kind of see them all over the place. Not an easy way to exit a level, is there? Checklist? Oh. Well, dang, we've done pretty well. I'm missing one mushroom. No, 4 mushrooms, and an egg, and a card. Which could be probably all in one spot. I would guess outside. I've tried to be pretty thorough in here. Nothing else here. Let's see the other dude. That's the thing. Oh, he's right here. Whoa! Okay.
Hello, you can weep off my little head to jump wee wee high.
Sure, man. That ain't bad. Ate that. Okay. Haven't found a purpose for the shit being tilted the other way yet. And that makes me, as the kids say, sus. Just a vein. What's this one again? Oh my gosh, look at you. Oh, sorry, I'm about to take a nap. I'll give you an autograph later. Right? That's where we got the one thing. The earth one's missing because he kept getting bigger, remember. This is going to be important at some point, right? Like, when we find this funny box, we got to open it and something will come out that may or may not be the end of the world. Don't worry about it. This is where we came from. I'm still looking for the last guy. I would guess up there. I think I even saw a last guy. He could be anywhere. The evolved Jesus fish. Correct. We've all gone full circle. We are fully back to whatever the fuck. I don't know. I'm gonna turn it this way for fun. Let's do it for fun. Don't you enjoy fun? I haven't been outside with the ship tilted yet, so that's why I turned it that way. Like, yeah, look at that. That's absolutely something. Because that's where we came from, right? That's the start. That's a whole different one up there. But this does shit outside, too, and that's good to know, because there are things out here. But once again, on this side, I'm... Hey, dudes, I think I know where some of the stuff I'm missing is. Doesn't really seem to be a reason at all for the ship to point this way. Like, at all. And even with it pointed this way, I don't think we can get back in through here. I think it's like, yeah, the whole stage is... Don't even bother doing this. Alright, whatever. Interesting. Turn it the other way. This is really pointless, guys. Turn it the other way. Loud noise as you turn the ship. Loud noise, but who gives a shit? Loud noise. I'm rotating this place. Wow. So, it's worth noting, in the Nintendo 64 era, I always struggled with having a sense of depth. And I just thought I was bad at 3D games. And as things go on, I'm like, maybe I'm just not capable of very specific things. So, getting on top is clearly the goal, right? Oh, shit. Okay, we'll come back for you. I get it, I think. Dude! Nope. Okay, bye. Yeah, I tried multiple and it just said nah. Otherwise, I'd put this bitch on its side and be like, hee hee hoo hoo, I'm a crazy bitch. Okay, we're gonna wait. Heat. Heat. Over to here. Okay. Now look, here's the last floor. Now look, I probably don't want this lined up this way. This is probably meant to be done while the ship is straight. But something about not being straight here. Oh yeah, this is the smart way to do it. This is so smart. I'm so smart. Wait, what?
so smart. Oh, we can do this. We can do this. Challenge accepted. Let's go. Yeah, that was stupid. That was clumsy and dumb. Why do things the smart way when you can do things the hard way? Again, what is depth? Dudes. I was so confident. And then, well, then this happened. There we go. That's all of them. It made a special slurp and everything. It was like, oh yeah, this is definitely meant to be done with it flat. Oh no. Okay, so we got to get back up here flat. I did all that work. I should just waited. It's fine. We'll go do whatever the mystery red thing is, and then we'll back for it. We're still missing an egg, and like, where the fuck else could it be? We find out this is a whole other level called Mr. Pig's Fuck Stain Nightmare. I don't know. Weird name, but okay. Something smells good. Oh no! Oh no! What a safe place for a child. Don't worry about it. Okay, so what do we do about this? We have molten lava, boiling shit. Am I just supposed to smack the egg out? That didn't work. Alright, that's not it either. This just kills me? Yeah, I kind of thought so. I don't have the ability to spit anything. I don't think I could have brought a potion out with me. Wait, can I go up there? Is that a thing? I'm not seeing anything I can actually do about this, guys. It says to do a thing. I don't have a thing. I think I need a move. Okay, well, we know where the egg is, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Probably. Yikes. Alright. Let's go make this thing flat for now, while that baby boils to death. I really still not get up there. This room, why does this exist besides to vex me? What a vile hole. That's what she said. Okay. Let's go in the front, right? And there's that way out there, which has to be something. We'll level it out, we'll get the card. We know where the last egg is, but not how to get it. That's what he said. Oh, sounds like yeast infection. Do I get that looked at? Right, now we're gonna go for this card. How did I miss all this before? Honestly, looking at what I missed, I feel kind of dumb. Like, mind you, this is scary and difficult right here. Because the wind is blowing you a little bit. Can I just get to that from here? There's no way, right? Oh, not how I am. Maybe with enough speed. Whatever. We found all the cards. We know where the last egg is. We just can't get it yet. I deem this an acceptable state for a dragon who needs to unlock a new move right now. And who knows, maybe we'll unlock a teleport to make getting back here easier. For me whole life, nobody help me when me am hurt. Me feel good now, feel lighter. Thank you, tiny hero. Thanks, please stop boiling my brother. Okay, now we're back in here, which sure exists. What a weird twist. This is supposed to be where we... I don't even know, man. Okay. I gotta find our way back. We don't know what the point of that flag is yet. We don't know a lot of things. Alright. This is all part of this shit. Oh, we need to... Being slow roasted in a red drum near the flying monster. Yes, I know. Good to have the hints, though. High up the wall in the wet depths of the Cavern of Dreams, where Kihi's burn bright. I don't know what that means. Yeah, look, you're rolling around. Look at you go! Bam. There's mushrooms, honey. Your heart grew stronger. I still don't know what that exactly means, but okay. And there's a warp to, I kind of think I might know. Let's start with this, shall we? Welcome back, young Finn. You've been doing an excellent job. Now I have another ability for you. Here goes nothing. You can use that horn to break cracked ground, bounce up to high places, and even ignore air streams. Now, Finn, I must warn you. There are strange things lurking deeper in the Cavern of Dreams. Just please, please promise me you'll be careful, okay? Oh, baby, they're the same size as you, man. Okay. Aye-yaw! One. This door is sealed with mysterious dark energies. Is your heart strong enough for you to break through it? Yes. I see. Your heart goes stronger as you raise the dragons, but they're still ultimately no good. Oh, look who it is. The hero. Would you like a parade in your honor, you miserable little puke? I am Luna, genius artist, and I am sick and tired of you messing with my artwork. Hang on, you're a dragon, aren't you? So those eggs must be your family. This really fits my outfit, doesn't it? Well, good for you. Ooh, I'm sorry. Am I making things too hard for you? Well, deal with it. Joining SAG after as we speak. Okay. If you want to dive into a bouncy object, you get a little more airtime. Do it. It's like old Super Mario swimming. Like you hit jump to go higher, but if you hold it, you don't do that much. You like tap it over and over. Interesting. That stuff looks very safe. I bet there's a baby in it. It just seems like it would fit the pattern. Ineffective smackdown. Climbable object. See that too. Okay, so they cancel your glide, and then you fall and you roast. Now you know. Now you know. You fall and you roast. Also some things to suggest jester shoes right here. So there's that one card we saw, so. Just mushrooms. Kazzo lives.
Kazzo lives.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, those hurt. And they make a loud noise. I don't like them. Gliding would not get us there, so we need something else. Clearly.
Got off your bingo, people. Kazzo mentioned.
I don't have the bingo on today, actually.
Oh.
I know. I am a weirdo. Oh, hello. Okay. A chamber of crystals. Oh, look, there is a baby in here. Open to input on how we get to it. There's a circle of something, and it's in the back. I am the great mighty Pooh. I'm going to fling... Oh, shit. I understand. I didn't even... Well... Listen. I'm going to fling my shit at you. I did sink in the Pepto. I'll never have heartburn again. Lucky me. Please ignore everything else that happened. Now that one is up. Now I'm trying to think, was the egg in that one? If the egg was in that one, then we need to go down and get the egg. Right? Aha! Why wasn't it crushed to death? Magic. Egg.
In this trying time.
It is trying times. That's why I'm sitting here with my tits half out. I can do it too, man. Putties from Power Rangers. Arrows say go. See, that one says to go out. That was your hint. That's the only one that doesn't point them to. Hey, mister! Pushy little hoe. Okay. Alright, yeah, no, that sounds right. That sounds like what would happen to me. Yeah, what do you need? Just a moment? Okay, I will turn off voice for a second. Well, bam!
I'm back. Ooh. Oh, sorry. We had a brief intermission. Life happened, as it often does. Have we seen my favorite egg yet? It's in this shot, but it's very obscured. It's right behind the limited's name there. There it is. Up in the stalactite. Stalagmite? Dally, galley, bally, look at my tits. Yeah, now you don't know I'm good at bad word, good word. You have an egg emote? Damn, you're prepared. Okay. Carrying on. How are we feeling about this one so far, anyway? Like, what's the vibe? Are we enjoying this? Is this interesting? Is this a one-off? What are we thinking? Curious how people feel about it. Ooh, a schluffage hole. A hole for schluffing. Okay. I see. These are annoying. Okay. Up. And around. And And around. Around and Egg. Oh, wrong egg. Alright, there's at least one more of those somewhere. I have noticed no health, no lives. Very brush it off, carry on kind of game. Because ouch, I got stabbed and it throws me off of whatever my platforming was. But it's kind of all it does. It's an annoying delay and it probably will interfere with whatever you're trying to do. Well, that's fine. The thing I've noticed about it. Okay. Checkers. Oh, case in point on the whole lock you around thing. Hey, excuse me, urchin assholes. You are so rare coded. But also, there we go. I wanted the mushrooms. Oh. Not sure how you'd get that one. You'd need some pretty serious... You go in and you just drop. And then you shoot up? I don't know how to shoot up that fast. You'd have to go mad up. Interesting. In fact, the icicles are slippery but climbable is interesting. I don't see that much. Oh, we have her stuff. Well, Albie, you brought them all back? So you ain't the one who stole them, are you? Looking back, I suppose it was pretty obvious. I'll just let her do that. Golly, does it feel good to stretch my tail. Shucks, you did me an awful big favor, and here I was giving you a bunch of lip. Sorry about that. Here, this is the least I can do. Cold, cold, go away. Bother us another day. And repeat. Okay. A lot nicer looking, ain't it, kiddos? Is this like a sexy shrimp angel, or what?
And the music completely changes. Interesting. Oh, this thing. Elk garden.
My apologies.
For your whipped cream addiction?
Yes.
You monster. Hey, we actually have music now, though. The gobbler! What sweet treat! Me once! Now, now, now! If instead of sweet treat, I give you the smackdown. Oh, he twimpsed. He twimpsed! He also hurt. I like go in his mouth. No. We've had one weird inside a machine monster man thing already. That's all fair. And we are deep down. Suddenly we're getting like variant music and everything. I think everywhere's had music, it's just been kind of quiet. Boing, boing, boing. I have swum through the star. Oh. Is there a timer on these or something? That looks lit still. Okay, so we're missing at least one somewhere. It's not the way I came in? Okay. I see. It's not a lights out puzzle. It's a they're related to each other in some random fucking way. Good luck, Sarah puzzle. Okay. Probably not what I wanted. So if I hit it again, do they go back? Urchin's here just to be obnoxious, huh? Nope, it's gotta be like that. But in the middle. Right, so tried the left one, the right one. It's 3D, so I don't even get a good, like, bearing on which ones affect what long term. I'm bad at that kind of thing, man. Okay, what about the right one, then? I can't even tell you if I'm in the same 3 situation over and over. This looks familiar. Okay, I need to work with a direction. That entrance. Okay, fine. One farthest from that entrance affects both of these. I'm not going to remember that, but fine. This one affects both of these. So if I do this, do those flip back? Yes. Okay. This one Affects those two? That's so weird. This is just gonna put me right back where I was, isn't it? Kinda. This one does those, but it doesn't help with... Well, wait, what if I can... No, because that just undid what I did. I have no fucking clue, man. This is so hard for my dumb brain. And there's no undo. Like, I'm like, alright, go back. Oh, no, fuck me.
Okay.
I have a pen. Do. Making a fucking diagram, because I can't do this otherwise. Is this one? Did... Those have a relationship. Okay. I think I was overcomplicating this the more I'm looking at it. So if that's right, this should affect those two? Yeah, I just had to write it the fuck down. Okay. I got it. I get how this works. I'm dumb. I get how this works. You hit the one, it affects the two across from it. I'm just a bit slow on the uptake, sorry. So, let's see what I can do with that information. This will flip that. And this will flip... That won't help. This will flip those. I think either of those is great. At least I now understand the situation. Problem is... getting him in a position that actually helps me. Because this will fix the one but undo the other, and then I'm just... There's one, right? That's not great. And that's going to flip those two, and we're just kind of back where we were before. So, what if I aimed to unflip, right? Now we have 3. If I want to unflip these two, I could do this. There's no way to get them all back in the starting position from this point. So, this will flip that, this will flip that. What if we just go to flip 2 in general? That'll get 3 and we'll be down to 1. That's not ideal. If I do this... We flip 2, and we... Oh, shit! There we go. Wow, okay. Did Homeboy just carry me to space? Oh, no. Okay. Yes, love. Egg. Been a minute. Yeah, what do you need, baby? You're stiff. Stuff taken and your stuff given, the stuff given, the stuff taketh away. Stuff, you alright? Oh. Did not tell the chat that I got my favorite candy. I know some of my chat is not American and ergo has year-round access to my favorite candy. The bastards. She got me some Cadbury cream eggs. My little Easter treat, my Cadbury cream eggs. I love Cadbury cream eggs. I had an idea I was going to run by Liz. I don't know how you'd even make them, but like basically Cadbury cream eggs, but they're bug-shaped.
Butt shape?
Bug-shaped.
Butt shape.
So like when you bite into the bugs, they're like got green cream in them and oozes out of them. And we corner the teenage boy demographic. Okay, we're finding more of these little star things around. Well, they were here the whole time and I'm dumb. But hey, there we go. That door is open. We did it. We opened a door. What appears to be some sort of arena of death. Oh. Hey, this isn't underwater all of a sudden. Just so you know. Oops. Oh, and they'll shoot me with their party twirler. Right, I don't think we even had the means to get through this, even if that weren't there right now. So this is cool, but I think we need whatever lets you shoot. But hey, the door's open. We've opened the door. We've got these funny little seahorses going around. How fun. Where the hell did I come from? This led to the guy. And opened a thing. Jester boots. Okay. I don't know what I was thinking. I keep thinking there'll be a ledge grab, and there is not a ledge grab. It's just in my little head. I'm like, yeah, ledge grab. I also keep thinking if I hold down the jump button, I'll start gliding instead of having to hit it a third time. There is some jank to the movement, I cannot lie. I prefer that over the double jump because it's less timing sensitive and it feels better. Boing, I'm up here. You know? Not there seems to be much purpose to boing up here, but just your boot. Mysterious card. Or is a mechanism to open this thing. We're allowed in here now. Alright, whatever, no Jester boot. Fuck me. Is this back in level 1? Well, hey, I've been wanting to come back here anyway, so alright. Surprisingly interconnected. We get a lot of weird little routes that take us from A to B or whatever. It's kind of strange. Like, I thought I needed something special to get up here. I just need to keep playing the game, and now here I am, I guess. So. Okay. I'm fine with that, honestly. Assuming 20 gets us the next whatever, and hopefully that's something that lets us pew-pew, you know what I mean? It's in here. Hello, Raichu Knight. It's 100%ed a few days ago. Right on. I started playing it because it seemed Easter appropriate. What with all the eggs I'm looking for. I thought, you know. Egg. Easter. Wow, I whiffed that. I have the feeling some of these will be more difficult for me than for most people. I get the higher bounce off this. A little bit. Can I smack that? Yes. Hello? Is that the dumpling? It's a cute creature fashioned out of pebbles. You hope you get to meet the real thing someday. Like the dumpling guy, honestly. Got a mobile. We got a funny pot. Don't know what that is. Now, like I was saying earlier, I kind of have some weird issues with depth perception when you get the old poly style things. Part up there. There's that there. Don't know what it is yet. There's... a fun little plushie we kind of want to look at. Let's be real. This smells funny. Is it fish food? Oh yeah, the guy needed fish food. That was like an hour ago. Jeez, 2 hours? It's been a while. What are you? You will save your siblings. I'm assuming you're a reference to something, but I don't know what. Card way up there. We got this, we got that, we got this escalates in height. Interesting, but I don't see an easy way on top of it from there, so it must be using these. That makes sense. Get on top of this. Hello. And now we kind of have options. There's that. I don't know if we can get in the windowsill. Oh, no, I think we can. I think I see the route. Okay. That's fine. He's gonna be so mad if that wasn't walking. Okay. Nothing over there. Yeah. Oh, cool. That's more forgiving than I expected it to be. Let me come over here. Oh. Easter eggs to find once all eggs are obtained. That card can be gotten the way you are. Just be creative. Yep. That's our dragon book. Smack it! Oh. Okay. So what's out the other door then? Can I do anything with the cupboard? No. Destruction? Mindlessness? Go under the bed? No. How am I supposed to hide from the Mosties? Alright. I'll take it around. Let's go. Let's see. There's the bell. There's that card. There's not a ton to this exact location. I kind of want to hop over here and get these mushrooms because I have a problem. Oh no, I'm stupid. Thought I had a problem. No one believed me. Will the bonk get me up there? Bonk? Yay, bonk. Well, that's an interesting thing with the C. I understand that. Give me that. Buttons. Okay. I hear. Is that really all I had to do before? I am a fool. Okay. We could have gotten much further in the level 1. Whoopsie. I'm a ding-dong. But hey. Oh, hey, look. What do I do with this one, then? This has a throwy looking spot here. Like, you come out here. No? Yeah, we already got in the church. We got the guy's food. Just eat this for now. Its day will come. Unless I could use it to get that. That would have been smart of me. But I think I might be able to... just do this. Did you know coming back to this after like 2 hours of messing around, you suddenly know how to play the game a lot better? What a concept. What a cool idea. Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant to do. You found it, my fish food? You're not Applejack anymore, sorry. We are saved! Thank you, thank you, thank you! Oh yes, let me open the gate to the deep woods for you. I think I saw that big bat. Bring some eggs in there. Okay, so that officially doesn't let me ride the fishies or smack them around. That's fair. I mean, you can ride them, but you know. And we went in there and it had the smoke we didn't know what to do with yet. Anything else over here? I'm swimming very slowly. And that's the grave of the guy. I can't affect at this point in time, but probably can eventually given how it looks. Like a door. Let's build some stinking speed up, shall we? I'm slow as dirt. Deep woods. Why not? We're all over the place. Who knows where we'll be next? Probably the deep woods. Gabby Grove. 3 of us trees are true and 3 of us are lies. Strike those trees with honesty and you will win a prize. Sunfish, happy fish, question mark fish, starfish. Cute. Okay, so I just don't know yet. I'm sure there's a sign somewhere and I just have to find it. There's also a path forward, so I should probably do that first, but now I feel like I missed something really obvious. Well, one step at a time. My instinct is to just, like, throw apples at him or something. Yeah, I understand the puzzle, I just don't have the solution. At this point in time. What? Yeah, it makes sense. Eggs while swimming. I might have gotten that too, I don't know. Hello. What do we got here? Pretty. The place where the plants grow sideways. Hey, that's what one of the babies was talking about. And we got Jester shoes. We got one of the fruits there. Oh, I'm not sure how I would get... Oh, duh. That makes sense. Well, you're just, like, hard to see through, little man. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, we got the Jester thing. I see. Circle throws, so I can't use that. No, that's not right. That gives me a lot of height. I assume that's very deeply relevant. I don't know if I can climb on these dudes. I could put it... Oh, now I don't know which way it grows out of the wall. One, two, three. Oh, shit. Hold on, I missed the most important thing in the world. We've achieved mushroom perfection. Alright, I need to just get brave and figure out... If I do this... Like that. That kind of works. Okay, I think I get the idea. Dummy. Dummy, 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 dummy. Okay. So we come over, we smack the tree. Yippee, we get the fruit. We hit the right button and we get the fruit. We go boing. Okay, now look. Look at this. Question is... Do I put it, like, near me? Oh, shoot. Okay, bye. You do that. I had some forward momentum, I guess. Oh, we said the wrong one. Oh, wait, duh. Oh my gosh, I don't even think I had to do that much. I got the down thing, I can just do that. Maybe that was meant to be done a different way before I had the big stompy stomp, but as with several of these things, I feel like I just kind of stumbled into it. That's fine, Jester Boots. I think we're done with you. Like, what am I still missing here? 3 eggs! A lot of stuff. Oh, no, that's the drink. 2 eggs. Just 2 eggs. One of them's this thing. Starfish. Moonfish. Starfish. Is that a star too? It said 3 are lies or 3 are true? Wait. Moonfish, starfish, starfish. Sunfish? Sunfish are real. Starfish are real. Is there such a thing as a moonfish? Try this one? I've seen some of these symbols is what's killing me. I just don't remember where. Not in the church, was it? Missing 2 eggs. I have to assume it's something to do with the, the trees are one, where the other was. And there's this thing over here, and I don't know what it's for yet. That. Okay. That just burns. Okay, I saw a bat current drugs egg. Yep. Find the grave that is in bloom and strike from behind to enter my tomb. There we go. Start with that. Yeah, sure, I love rolling a complete stop and showing absolute bad skills. Is it the one back here? Did I have the right idea? No. I can just strike all of them. How's that one in bloom? Oh, dumb. I'm dumb. Okay. I'm dumb. There was a flower on it. You right. Okay. Whee! Dark spooky corner. Ominous fish bones. Some sort of message. Spooky fire. Egg. Ross Shelwick to steadfast. He dies, he lived. Grumpy. Mood, man. Anyway. Finally, I can rest in peace. Sure, man. I'm sure there was a more interesting way to do that when I was meant to do that, but unfortunately for all of us, it took a long time to get here. Crypt's walls are a stream. Find fish who resist the flow. Strike them to reveal. I see. I think I was meant to, give a fuck? Yeah, I was definitely meant to give a fuck. Whoopsie. I've had a few things I'm like, I don't think I was meant to do it like that. I have no idea what the puzzle was. Oh. Hey, there's like a whole room. Wait, seriously? I was just... Oh. I was just kind of meant to... I didn't even think I had glide. No, I had glide, I think. No, I didn't. I didn't have glide yet when I got here. Or this. Which would have got me up anyway. I don't know. Whatever. Some sort of movement thing. I'm a fool. 2 were strikeable. That would make sense. Me and this camera are not friends. I really want it to be that one. Really want it to be that one, not gonna lie. They're even shaded different. Yeah, horn bounce gives extra height, just generally. This is a spot. I feel like I'm not meant to see it from this direction. There's like a big light shining like a mirror. Oh, hello. How happy. I don't know why this exists. So, oh, you take it with you. You hit the thing. I get it. I get the puzzle. What a silly puzzle. And this is illusion when you're walking back in. It looks like it keeps going, but it doesn't. Haha, you're in a scary, spooky maze. Uh-huh. And then you do this. And then it goes up. And then you're kind of in a race with this thing. And you gotta, like, eat it over there. But much better than that. Alright, whatever. Unless this matters for completion of, like, achievements or something. I got the thing. Oh, you had to get the fruit all the way over. I don't know how to get on top of that stone. That's what's killing me. I couldn't find the route, and I also don't really care. I just need to solve the trees now, and that's very frustrating. Hi, what's on you? A star. Alright, I get it. Star, a strike through circle, and... Knew I'd seen those somewhere. The sun. We got this. Wrapping up point? Okay. Pretty soon here, honestly. She has penance tomorrow. Yes, I've solved your little riddle, you bitch. There's that one. There's that one. There's that one. You're knowledgeable indeed. We dance in celebration! One more Easter egg for the road, baby. Nom nom nom. The trees dance for me. Lovely. Alright. Woo! Not my first time leaving, Egbert. Or Shelbert, whatever. I know people's names good. I'm good at names. Somewhere around here is just, yep. Now wait, is there something I can do up here that I haven't been able to do before? Because we've got more movement options. For I am ass at walking, just like in real life. Right, came up here, there was an egg. Okay, so if I do this one, I can get over here real easy. I've been using the horn jump instead of the double jump, honestly. Because I'm really clumsy with the double jump, but I'm pretty good at just, like, the bam, you know? Looks like that's it for now. Okay. Isn't there, like, a warp here to... Hello. What you doing? What now? Oh my goodness, I missed this? Okay. Smiley faces on the tree, so this can't be too dangerous. There's something that looks like a spooky haunted area, but everything kind of does. Well, so far I can't, but for now, I'm sure there's a way. But for the moment, trying to get, back to, what's her name? Sage. Where's my little... There it is. Sup, girls? I'm back. So, none of you are ready? I'm sad. I have done so many of these. Not you? Not you? And then the one that's like, my sister is being roasted alive! And I'm like, yeah, I know about that one. I don't have a way to turn off or get through that fire at this point in time. May have gotten ahead of myself slightly. We got warp 1. I don't think I ever checked where this one's going. Oh, this is right back there. Okay. I don't know the alternate way. I walked in there and all I had was glide. So didn't have much to go with. That's all I'm missing in that stage. I'm missing a lot in Prismic Palace, actually. Wow. We did kind of bail to... The only way I know to get back there is through the first stage in the future, so... Alright. Not right now. I'll figure it out later. It's a blind run. I'm good for now. We're learning. Let's look at our... Yes. Let's see. Encyclopedia. Shroom. Interesting. I didn't realize he had eyes on the back of his body. Ones on front seem to get more action. Ale Carpy. Preston. The button has a name. Hee hee. Alright. They like being chilled if they get too hot. How do I change pages? Right stick. Really? Okay. Yeah, I figured he did. Shelworth's just the tomb. They seem to know something that others don't. There's your hint. Ray. Hey, it's that thing I saw. So the thing that made the sun is literally a dude with a smiley face on him. That's fun, actually. Sapling. Gabby Grove. Mr. Carrington. Oh. Mr. Carrington was just a nice dude who needed someone to care. The care in Carrington. We had to put the care back in Carrington. Boy-be. Gross. Dumpling. Eesh. Freaky, incestuous, scaly hero. Nailed it. Incest is why it looks like that, you say. Palm? Oh, they're actually thing. That's probably where I'll go next time. Yeah, and I'm not sure if people want to see more of this one or not. I am open to input. Not a bad first impression. If I do this, we go back here. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. But my time is up for tonight. Because tomorrow is the writing. For her. For me, it's going to be the snoozing. I'm tired. Usually I'd like shower and wash my hair and stuff. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of here. I'm going to eat a cream egg. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Yes. How do I exit game? There we go. There we go. So thank you for joining me. I hope we've enjoyed the seasonal garb and the low-key egg hunt in the background. There are so many. And I got to do an egg hunt as a game. I didn't know if I'd find one. I did not know if I'd find one. There are many eggs. The water egg. The corner egg. I can show off eggs. I can show off all my eggs. Look at that. Boom. There's starting screen head eggs. Egg. Egg. Eggs. How many eggs? And over here. There's the egg up there. An egg up there. Corner eggs. Other corner eggs. Big wet egg in the water. You can see it right there. Egg. I was up till 5 in the morning doing eggs. For no good reason. I just wanted to put eggs. I figured I was already up till 4 doing this thing. Making myself look like this. So I may as well hide more eggs. So I made some eggs and I put them in here. I tried to just find an egg asset, and when I looked for Godot eggs, like Easter eggs, I got one thing on itch for 15 stinking dollars. Easter eggs pro. I was like, holy crap! I'm not spending $15 on. Genuinely, like, I did 2 edits to a sphere, and then I painted on it half-assedly, and it's fine. It does the job. Is it like professional? No, it's in the background of my cave. I don't care. I literally took the middle and I squooshed it down, and I took like 3/4 up and I did the proportional edit and scaled that down, and it worked fine. And now it's an egg. They look like eggs. I made eggs. Yay, the blender skills are amounting to something. Yeah. I do not know if we'll keep doing Cavern and Dreams on stream or not. I'll see what people think. I'm enjoying it. But also we have a lot of like various things, and I got the art to do tomorrow. Is going to be the skebs I was planning to do yesterday. It got late, and I just didn't. I don't know. I felt gross. I still kind of feel gross. I look fine, but I feel gross. I don't have a plan for Sunday at this point. Usually I've just kind of hit Sundays as like vibe, breathe. But don't burn out, you know. So we'll see. Maybe I'll play some more. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just spin. It is a Easter holiday, but it also, when this will be relevant. Hey, look, I'm sideways. I just do this, just like, hey, like we're hanging out. You're just laying with me. I'm a skank. Okay. My legs. This one's even bigger than the other one, by the way. This is bigger than Murray. A little bit. Yes, dear. I am rambling. I'm good at rambling. I'm a rambler. I say goodbye via ramble. What I do, I don't like endings. It's a condition.
Goodbye, chat.
I am being told to leave. Yeah, I feel the Banjo-Kazooie. Big time. And I'm having fun. I just don't know if people want to keep watching it. I will ask the people. But for now, I need to go to bed, eat a cream egg, not in that order, and then she can sleep and do her writing tomorrow and have happy, fun, hopefully. Cross your fingers. Yes. Thank you for joining me in my Easter show and tell, I guess. we might play something Sunday to get maybe more of this. Who knows? All right. Got nothing else. Okay, bye. Sploosh.